Welcome to all. Today we are entering a new chapter, that is news editing. In the previous chapter, we have analyzed various styles of news reporting. What are the sources of news? What are the elements of the news? How can we write a news story using inverted pyramid style? Then different types of reportings, recent trends in media. That's all we have discussed in the last portion. That is 8th unit reporting news. Now we enter the last one, ninth unit editing news. What do you mean by editing? Simple words, editing is correction. As we know, three steps are there, three processes are there in an editing process. First one is selection, then correction, the third one rewriting. These are the three steps involved in an editing process. In every editing process, whether it may be a newspaper or a magazine or a publishing book, in every case, these three steps matter. Now we analyze the organizational setup of a newspaper organization. As we are aware about this one, departments are there in a newspaper organization. Business department, which runs the newspaper. Advertising department is also part of business department. Then editorial department, which report the news and prepare the news. That is, in the editorial department, two processes happening. First one is reporting the news done by reporters. Second one is editing the news done by editors. Third organization is circulation department, that is responsible for circulating the newspaper hard copies. The fourth one is mechanical department, which looks after the printing process of the newspaper. Now, coming to the point of editorial department. Two processes are there in editorial department. First one is reporting the news. Second one is editing the news. In the previous chapter, we have discussed about reporting the news. These are done by reporters or correspondents. Now, in this chapter, we are analyzing in a short manner the process of news editing. Before beginning our process, let us assume that the editing process is done by two category of editorial staff mainly. These are sub-editors and senior sub-editors. These two people are responsible for the editing process. Now, what happens in an editing desk? The reporting process is happening on news bureau. They work from early morning to late night. Then the reporting team sends the reports to the news desk. News desk starts its functioning late afternoon till the morning, till the newspaper publishing. This second part is happening in a place called news desk. This is the process of news editing. That means the reporting tasks are assigned in news bureaus, whereas the news editing process is held in news desk. News desk usually starts its functioning late afternoon till the morning of the next one day. That means the two processes happening in a news desk are editing the news and then preparing a newspaper or publishing a newspaper. In this unit, we are discussing two terms: how to edit a newspaper. Second one is how to design a newspaper. So, first, come to the process of news editing. Simply, news editing involves three processes: selection, correction, and rewriting. Suppose you are a sub-editor working in a newspaper. You assumed the charge of a news sub-editor in a newspaper and you are ready to do your works. You are present at the news desk by late afternoon, and what you have to see? You get a lot of news stories written by news reporters. You have a uh, large quantity of news reports sent by several reporters around the district or around the state. The first thing you have to do as a sub editor is to select the most important or appropriate news from the many. This process is called selection. For doing the selection process, you have to taste the story or you have to taste the copy. Every individual story written by a reporter is called news copy. So, as a sub editor, you need to taste the copy. This process is called copy tasting. So, first you read the news story and you have to decide whether this is an important story for tomorrow's newspaper. If the read story is very important and you have to include for tomorrow's newspaper, you keep it in a tray. And the rest of the rejected copies, you keep it on other tray for further reference, or you have to use that stories on another occasion. Then you start the process of editing, taking one by from the received tray. What you have to do? You have to read the story, do the correction. If required, you have to rewrite the story. You have to put an attractive headline in a story and you put it in a display. For this purpose, an editorial team must have obey some principles. These have principles of news editing. Whether it is a new news or whatever may be, you have to obey the principles of news editing. What are the principles of news editing? These are the important landmark points we need to keep in mind while doing an editing process. What are they? Very simple. The first one is accuracy. Every sub editor must check for the accuracy. All the facts furnished in a news story must be cross checked for confirmation. All the facts must be cross checked to ensure that there is nothing inaccurate in this story. You have to check for the factual errors. You have to check for the grammatic errors, you have to check for the digit and names, especially foreign names, and you have to cross check for the factual errors. This is the first principle we keep in mind as a sub-editor: accuracy. In all terms, the story sent by a reporter must be accurate. No ambiguity should be in that story. You have to cross check all the facts. For that purpose, you are free to consult the reporter about that story before doing a editing process. That is, first one is accuracy. Accuracy must be maintained in all aspects in a news editing process. That is the first principle of news editing. Second principle is balance and fairness. What is balance in a story? A story must be well balanced. You know, every story must have two stakeholders, one in for the story or another one is against the story. There are two versions in every story. As a sub editor, we have to hear the versions of both sides. You keep a balance in a story. Don't do such personal bias in a story. Personal bias in a story is very avoidable. It's avoidable clearly. That means you have to weigh the story by balancing the two factions or two versions in a story. Balance must be maintained in a story. All the parties involved in a story must be heard again and again. Suppose something has happened in a school, and as a reporter version, but you can prepare a story just by listening the principal's version. You need to talk about the story with the students, with the parents, with other staff, with the local community. Then after you have to prepare a story. That is the well balanced story. Along with the balance, another term is fairness. It is the trustworthy story must be respectful. A story must be trustworthy. Fairness must be there in a story. Report the story, prepare the story as it may be. No internal interference is required. You need to put the story in a very neat and fair way. That is the second principle. Third principle is brevity. What do you mean by brevity? Brevity is the soul of the journalism. That is, putting apt and most appropriate words and sentences or phrases in a news story, which is very simple. Don't put so many words and make the readers confusion. Instead, you put some apt words at the apt position. Appropriate sentences and phrases must be inserted in a story. Story writing or news story writing is about simplicity, not like a creative work or literary work. That is the third position is brevity. It is very important while editing a news story. Fourth one is clarity. You have to make a story very legible. No confusion should prevail the readers about their story. You put everything in a clear manner. No confusion must be in position. You have to make all the confusions away from the reader's mind. That is the fourth principle of news editing. That is clarity. Everything must be clear. The reader must be familiar with everything you present in a story. The next fifth principle is simplicity. As you know, simplicity is the core thing of the news writing. News writing is all about putting the matter straight through the readers, not a literary work. You have to put the story or the facts in a simple manner. In every aspect, selecting, whether it may be a selecting a word or selecting a sentences or selecting a phrase or something like that, you have to keep very simple. Short sentences, familiar phrases, apt and simple words, familiar words. These are the main points while regarding the principles of simplicity. This is a must one. And the last but not the least point is readability. Readability is all about the comfort of the readers. Every story must be written keeping the readers in mind. That is, the common readers in the mind. They are not well educated, not but middle class reading fraternity must be taken in the mind while rewriting a story using this principle, that is readability. Readability means small sentences, simple sentences, simple usages, familiar phrases, simple words. All these are all the part of the readability principle. So there are so many readability formulas everywhere in the editing process. The one mentioned in your textbook is flesh readability formula. It is a scientific formula prepared by a linguistic flesh to count the process of readability in a text matter. We don't need to go further for this process. We just remember this name, flesh readability formula. There are certain things we keep in mind while putting up a readability text. That is the length of the sentence, the words included in a sentence, and the breakup of the paragraphs. All that matters are very important in a readability principle. So, very simply, we have 6 principles of news editing. First one is the accuracy. Second, balance and fairness. Third one, brevity. Fourth one, clarity. Fifth one, simplicity. And the last but not the least one, readability. These 6 principles must be in the heart of a sub-editor while doing a editing process. This is the foremost, the most important basic fact we need to keep in mind while understanding the process of news editing. Okay. This is a short section. We have discussed about the principles of news editing. The next section will be about the headline writing. Headline writing is the part of a job involved by sub-editor. So, as a sub-editor, we have to make more creative headlines to attract the readers. Okay, that's all. Thank you.